Good evening, good afternoon, and remember, Context is Everything Media Network founder and CEO John Michael is reading another textbook, cover to cover. This is an American history textbook from guess what year? That's right, 1940. This book was published before we entered World War II as a nation. So why don't we get started reading it? We're probably 1/4 of the way to the finish, so 3/4 of the way through this book. And we are now on Chapter 9, Section 4, Slavery and the Union. And we're talking about a great man. We're talking about Abraham Lincoln. This book's from 1940. A son of Kentucky. Everyone knows that Lincoln's birthday is February 12th. Abraham Lincoln was born in 1809, rather. His birthplace was a miserable log cabin in a poor Kentucky farm. Education. Abraham Lincoln spent less than 1 year in school. The school was a very poor one. Young Abe had to walk through 4 miles of forest to reach the school. After his year at school, Lincoln tried to educate himself. Paper was very scarce, so Lincoln did his sums on the back of a wooden shovel. What? He used a burnt stick as a pencil. No one helped him with his work. He had to figure everything out himself. He made up his mind to learn to write and to speak well. He wanted to be sure that people would understand whatever he said as he meant it. Lincoln trained himself to write and to speak honestly and simply. Lincoln's work. As a young man, Abraham Lincoln worked very hard. His father needed help to support the family and the young. His father needed help to support the family, and young Abe did what he could. He earned money by splitting rails for fences. That is why he was given the nickname, the Rail Splitter. He did not stop at any kind of work. Before he was 21 years old, Lincoln had grown to 6 feet 4 inches in height. Hard work had given him a strong body with powerful muscles. As he grew older, Lincoln took up a number of different jobs. At times he worked as a mill hand. For a job, he was a clerk in a village store. He served as a postmaster and worked as a surveyor. No matter what his job was, Lincoln made friends. People liked him. That was because he was a kind and honest person. He always tried to be pleasant. Lincoln in politics. Abraham Lincoln went into politics, and politics changed his whole life. He had those qualities that a good politician needs. A person who is skilled in the science and art of government is called a politician. Well, that's up for debate. Lincoln was a plain but forceful speaker. He could make ordinary people understand difficult questions. He was honest and people trusted him, so they voted for him whenever he was a candidate. Lincoln did not like slavery. The Lincoln-Douglas debate. Stephen A. Douglas was a United States Senator from Illinois. He was called the Little Giant. His body was small, but his mind was powerful. He was very popular, too, and had great hopes of one day being elected President of the United States. Douglas was a Democrat, and the Democrats favored slavery. In 1858, Douglas again was a candidate for the United States Senate. The Republican Party chose Lincoln as the candidate against Douglas. Lincoln went about the state opposing Douglas. Several times the two men met on the same platform in debate. These debates interested thousands of people. Men traveled from distant places to hear the speakers. Lincoln had one great advantage in the argument. He knew exactly where he stood on slavery. Lincoln said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe that this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. It will become all one thing or all the other. Douglas had to try to please all the Democrats. That meant the Democrats of the North who disliked slavery and the Democrats of the South who favored slavery. Lincoln only had to please one group. All Republicans opposed slavery. The presidency. Lincoln lost the election for senator, but he won the interest of the whole country. His clear, strong arguments against slavery made a great impression on many Northerners, and many Northerners began to realize that Abraham Lincoln was the leader the country needed. The Republicans in 1860 nominated Lincoln for president. The Democrats were hopelessly divided. The Northern Democrats nominated Lincoln's old opponent, Stephen A. Douglas. The Southern Democrats nominated another man. The excitement was intense. The South openly declared that it would not accept Lincoln as president even if he were elected. The South would leave the Union rather than have him as president. The votes were counted and Abraham Lincoln was elected. Secession. At once the Southern leaders declared that the time had come for the Southern states to leave the United States and form a separate nation. This was called secession. A month after the election of Lincoln, South Carolina declared that it was no longer a part of the United States. Within a short time, 10 other Southern states had seceded from the Union. The map shows how the states which seceded. They formed a new union, which they called the Confederate States of America. They selected Richmond, Virginia, as their capital. Jefferson Davis was elected their first president. He was the only president that the Confederacy would ever have. Here's the map. The Civil War. President Lincoln declared that no state had the right to leave the Union. He denied that there was a new nation to the South. Nevertheless, the Confederate States began to act as an independent nation. They took over the United States property within the border of the Confederacy. One piece of the United States property was Fort Sumter. Fort Sumter was an island near Charleston, South Carolina. Beautiful town, by the way, if you've never been. Quite lovely. Its commander was Major Robert Anderson of the United States Army. A Confederate general called upon Anderson to surrender the fort. The demand was refused. Then, at 4:30 in the morning on April 12, 1861, the Confederates fired their first shot of the Civil War. Fort Sumter was forced to surrender. The terrible Civil War had begun. It was fortunate indeed that during these times Abraham Lincoln was our president. He labored 4 long years of the war. He guided the country, working and praying that the Union might be saved. Abraham Lincoln. And I think that it goes to show, I don't want to get too political right now, but I'm going to say it. You know what? I'm just going to say it. Nowadays, Republicans are considered to be racist, and I say that with quotation marks. And Democrats are nowadays supposed to be inclusive. These things change. So even if it's a lie that people are being told, which it is today, those lies are going to shift over time. Two-party system is broken. Have a good day. God bless. Goodbye. Two-party system is broken. That's right.